talking about how Black women have played a huge part in social transformation. Social transformation is the development of innovative policy, practices, laws, ways of thinking, and behaviors that address underlying systemic causes of social problems and challenges in order to promote equitable outcomes for all groups. To talk about the injustices that Black women face every day, first it's important to define intersectionality, which is a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. Intersectionality is the complex, cumulative way in which the effects of multiple forms of discrimination, such as racism, sexism, and classism, combine, overlap, or intersect, especially in the experiences of marginalized individuals or groups. I think the most obvious example of intersectionality in American history is the voting issue. Black men were allowed to vote in 1870. White women were allowed to vote in 1920, and Black women weren't allowed to vote until 1965. Black women have always had a harder time in America compared to white women, and the same is still true today. Anna Julia Cooper addressed the World Congress of Representative Women in 1893, saying white women could at least fight for their rights while Black women were doubly enslaved. Although we may have the same rights today, Black women still face systemic injustice. In this study from the University of California, Black women define structural racism and what it means to them and their experiences. It reads, "The women defined by structural racism as a system that distributed unequal access to resources and opportunity. 9 domains of structural racism emerge from women's stories. Negative societal views. Black women described being constantly labeled as dangerous when navigating in public spaces. Housing. Black women described experiencing structural racism through neighborhood segregation and inadequate housing through forceful evictions or overpricing of Black renters. Medical care. Black women reported encountering inadequate medical care, a direct result of a lack of culturally competent providers and staffs. Law enforcement. Black women described police harassment, highlighting a broken law enforcement system that endangers the health, well-being, and livelihood of Black women and bodies. Hidden resources. Black women also express struggling and feeling alone due to a lack of resources tailored towards Black women and communities. Employment. Black women reported experiencing racial discrimination during the hiring and promotion processes, revealing a multi-level structure of workplace discrimination that is used to limit Black women's access to the higher-paying jobs and leadership roles. Education. Black women described a system that doesn't provide equal access to opportunities for Black children, adolescents, and adults, that as well as unfair disciplinary treatments. Community infrastructure. Black women clearly described 3 ways that community infrastructure upholds systemic racism: widespread food deserts, hazardous parks, and the desensitization of perpetual violence in communities of color. Policing Black families. Black women described being policed when using medical and supportive services from the government. I watch the H3 podcast every week, and I came across this disgusting display of individual racism against Black women from Black men.
So here's another clip. There's so many of them. This guy, they say they don't date Black women. Straight up, just no Black women.
Bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
LaQuisha.
Yeah, like me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like that.
Man.
We ain't night riders.
Nah,
so
bro, I'm good.
Sometimes if they're red bone,
Jesus.
but like in general, me and Fresh don't dabble in the dark. If you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay, so last one, guys.
Good thing they've spoken code there.
Now we're not going to mention names for certain reasons, right?
Yes.
For a bunch of legal implications. But if you guys are in our community, we talk about this extensively.
What about the Black dating app called Black?
They don't date Black women. Yeah, they hate their moms. I mean, how else can you describe that? Like, all the women in your family are Black. Your sisters, your moms, everyone that you apparently don't love. But yeah, I mean, they obviously hate their moms, right? They're like, I don't date Black women. Weirdos.
I learned a lot in this class, and I hope that I can continue learning after. I've always been nervous to speak on these topics because I'm a white woman, obviously, and they don't really relate to me. But I do think it's important to educate everybody, and I hope you learned something today. So thank you for watching. Bye.